Okay, so this is how OK Turbo covers tissue, covers a model with tissue. So I've got the stab and I've decided, okay, I'm going to use tissue to cover it. Using Japanese tissue provides kind of more of a rigid structure, maybe more delicate out in the field, but for the tail end of this thing, I want it to be lightweight and strong and stiff. So what I use is I have two different kinds of Randolph dope, nitrate dope. There's the tautening and then the non. So to attach everything, it's the tautening nitrate seems to be a little stickier and it's better as an adhesive. So that's what I use to like coat the wood frame and everything and get it on there real good. Then I give it a couple of coats, sanding in between, and that gives it basically a good base for the tissue to stick to. When I actually go to put dope on the tissue after it's covered, I use the non-tautening because I don't want it to shrink so much that it bends the frame, the stabilizer. You don't want any unnecessary warps on this. So I just gave it another little coat of dope. I got my stash of tissue. This is kind of the box I've used over decades. And then there's just layers and layers of different kinds of tissue. If I get to the bottom of the box, this is where you get into more of the old e-saki tissue. So if you get down here, you see this real shiny stuff. That's the good stuff. That's from back in the day, e-saki tissue. So there's some of this orange that I had from years ago, and I guess I decided just, well, I'll use some of that. There's some white and green and blue. But I'm going to cover this horizontal stab in this orange e-saki Japanese tissue. So let me set up the camera here, and I'll kind of show you how I make this happen. So you don't want to be too wasteful with this stuff, but just kind of lay out part there and then cut your tissue to size. So there's one. Let's see here. I'll need one for the bottom and one for the top. Right about there. Using a new single edge razor blade. Set that over in the box. Get one of these kind of out of the way. I don't need this full length, so I will trim off a little bit here on the end. Always saving the scraps. Okay, so you want the shiny side out, dull side against. And usually what I do here is I'll get my dope ready and I'll get some clean thinner. Then I also have a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol on it. So let's just, I'm going to attach the bottom first. Just kind of get the main part, just barely adding any dope here, just to kind of get it, activate what's already on there, get it sticky, because that's kind of the way the lacquer dope works, is it basically melts the layer below it, and that's how it kind of, enamel paints just kind of layer on, one on top of each other, the layers of paint. a lacquer paint will actually kind of melt a little bit of the lacquer that's already there. So, okay, so now we've got a light coat, and put it down. Then we use the thinner. I do want this tissue to start shrinking too, so I am going to spray the alcohol on there. And you're just kind of carefully going around, and what the thinner is doing is kind of soaking through the tissue and attaching the tissue to the wood. Just going to use your fingers. Now what I'm going to do, I'm kind of mist a little bit of that alcohol in there. Just kind of getting the thinner, letting it soak through that wet tissue, because now it's wet. Getting it to attach. These are super thin ribs, so I'm hoping that that attaches okay, but we're getting ready to find out. And I'm just very lightly with my finger, just getting it to kind of stick a little better. So as that tissue dries, those wrinkles will tighten up. So that looks pretty good. So we'll leave it at that. We'll let that dry, and then trim it with a razor. Turns out that piece we trimmed off is just the right size for this fin. So let's go ahead and... So this is not an open framework. It's still kind of the same idea. I use the alcohol to get it to lay down smoothly. Then you start working on the dope thinner, melting that dope that's already on there. It's kind of, you kind of have to get in the middle of it, get your hands on it, work it in. Be generous with the thinner. And always kind of try and work around the edge, trying to get that to roll around. Okay, let that kind of dry. You can see here what I've done with this piece. It does warp up. I mean, this is drying, so the tissue is shrinking. Go ahead and show you kind of how I trim things here. Just carefully follow the edge. It's kind of one of those things you just have to kind of just learn by doing it. Just the lightest of pressure. Does not take much to cut that tissue. There's some guys that are just masters at this. I'm not a master of it, but I can make a pretty decent looking tissue covering job. And usually what I do is I go back around and kind of seal that edge with another light coated dope. Okay, that tissue's dry. There's still a few little wrinkles in it, but that'll all smooth out really nicely. So this is how I do the top side. So I'll give it another light little coat of the thin dope. But this is the curved top, so it's a little trickier. I'll actually apply the tissue wet. Okay, so we got some good. So here's the tissue. I kind of have like a little towel here. So the shiny side's up, that's the way I want it, but I will actually just kind of mist that rubbing alcohol on top of it to wet it down. And then we'll just lay it right on top. And then you just kind of gently pull. Yep, I've kind of got it too far on one end. Try this again. Sometimes you get lucky and it goes on smooth the first time. Other times, not so much. If you need to, just add a little more of the alcohol, because it does dry out fairly quickly. Then you just kind of go along, gently tug the outside edges to get, you know, as many of the wrinkles out as you can. Okay, that's looking pretty good right there. Then you start with the thinner. I usually try and start somewhere in the middle. That way the distances are shorter. Because you start to tug on things, the longer the distance, the more it's, you know, any misalignment is going to be pronounced. So you try and start from the middle and move out using the dope thinner on the edges. And I use my finger to help press down, make sure it's stuck good. And kind of around the other way, center out. That looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is when I lay it down here, I'm going to put a couple of jars here to hold it flat. So what we'll do is when we actually put the dope on it, we will also pin it down to the board to keep it all flat as it dries. But for right now, let's just try and hold it there. Okay, that all looks good. So let that kind of dry. Let's got out the non-tautening dope now. So this has less shrink to it. So the idea is to keep from shrinking the tissue so much that it warps the structure. Now I already put one coat last night on the stabilizer. and I kind of held it down with some of those jars so it would dry flat. So this will be the second coat of 50/50 non-tautening nitrate dope. So this is probably as much as I'll put on it. You can already kind of see there's a little bit of that, just classic. It's not really a matte finish, it's kind of in between matte and gloss. The idea is just to get it on the surface. You don't want to really work it into the tissue too much. You just really want to kind of seal the fiber. So I'm just very lightly brushing it on. I've never sprayed the dope. I've always brushed it. Get some decent brushes and it works just fine. And it dries very quickly. You can kind of feel as it dries. I mean, even as I'm brushing now, you can kind of feel it kind of drag where it's already drying and getting tacky. You just kind of keep the wet edge without really drowning it. You just very light coat. And probably by the time I'm done with this top, the bottom should be pretty much dry. Typically, it is kind of cool this morning, so we'll see. Make sure I seal up that edge. Okay, just finished it. Still wet on top, but the bottom's already drying up. So the thing here is kind of, I try and lay it on a flat surface to let it, I don't really want to glue it down, but this is parchment paper, so it's kind of the waxy side of the parchment paper. So what I'll do is just kind of weigh down the wingtips. Let's see what else I can find. Here's this, there's that. Kind of checking to see where it's kind of springy. That way it's, you know, it's kind of warping a little bit. Or random objects can I find around the shop to hold it down. Okay, that looks good. Okay, this is still drying a little bit, although it's not wanting to stick right there. May go ahead and put some dope on that. For this, it doesn't really matter since it's not an open frame, so you don't have to worry too much about it warping. Okay. Now let those things dry and we'll come back. Okay, give it some time to dry. See what we ended up with here. Looks like everything stayed flat. That's good. So that's kind of what it looks like. That'll be ready to go on the plane. I still need to add like the little pin for the rubber bands for the DT part, but that's what that looks like. Here's the vertical stabilizer or fin. It does have a little bit of a warp, but it's actually in my favor. It looks like it's kind of warped a little bit this way, which is for a right turn, so I may just leave that there, not try to flatten that out anymore. This part's fairly flat. It's just right here at the tip. The design has this little extra piece in here with the grain running another direction to keep it from warping. But I think I'll just go ahead and keep that little bit of a twist there, which actually will give it a right turn, which is kind of what we're wanting. So that's good. Then this still needs trimmed up, and then tissue on the other side. So I'll work on this, and then it's the wing, and that's a completely different program. That's with the Doculan. Heat activated, iron on stuff. So anyhow, back in a bit.